Happy Thursday. I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy during this time. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mary Case. I had the pleasure of joining RVATECH the beginning of this year as a member engagement manager. Today, we have two wonderful men here with us, Skip Goodwillie of ePlus and Rodney Willett of Impact Makers. So I'll give you a little bit of background about both of them. Skip is a retired Army colonel and is currently the manager of consulting services for the Richmond office of ePlus Consulting. Skip has been a board member of RVATECH for many years, a board member for the Venture Forum, and was also past president of the Association of Information Technology Professionals. During his career, he has been a manager of recruiting, sales manager, project leader, division manager, branch manager, and has owned and sold 2 companies in the IT staffing field. Gosh, Skip, want to do any more? Just kidding. Skip has placed IT professionals in every technology and at every size company for over 20 years. Skip has also been the membership chair for RVATECH and has tremendously helped me in my new position, so thank you for that. Rodney Willett is a Democratic representative for the Virginia House of Delegates, 73rd District in Henrico County, and is also currently the Vice President of Business Strategy at Impact Makers. Throughout his professional career, he has worked extensively with state and local governments to address their management, technology, and legal needs. As an entrepreneur, Rodney has pursued innovative business models, including with his current company, Impact Makers. In addition to serving others in his professional career, Rodney also volunteers on numerous boards and committees, including RX Partnership, Children's Health Insurance Program Advisory Committee, and the Richmond Performing Arts Alliance, which he chairs. Thank you both for being here today. Also, wanted to give a little overview. Today, we're going to try and make things a little bit more interactive. So Skip and Rodney will be talking for about 30 minutes or so, and then we are going to open it up for questions. As you can see, you all have the ability to turn your mics and cameras on, so we are going to encourage you to do so, so we can make this a little bit more of a discussion. And today, we are going to discuss the impact of COVID-19 on company culture, communications, and change management within their own organizations and their customers. And without further ado, let's get started. So first question, we'll start with a generic question. So what major impact has COVID-19 had on your company thus far? And we can start, Skip, if you want to start.
Sure. Thanks for the intro. I didn't know I had done all that, actually. But I welcome everybody that is joining. I see more and more windows populating every second. As far as the impact to the company overall, as each state, of course, we're a global firm, publicly traded, so many of our locations in other states, California and Washington State, namely, led the effort on staying at home with all their orders from the governors in respective states. So the biggest impact is moving everybody into their home offices, right? Moving out of the central office location and into the disparate locations, and becoming super experts on Zoom, WebEx, GoToMeeting, and the like. So that's the short answer from an impact. Rodney?
Yeah, I'd say you certainly. I mean, we're IT technology consulting company, so by the nature of the business, we are used to being on site with clients, and those clients are mostly in the Mid-Atlantic region. So on a regular day for us, our office is fairly empty because people are out on client sites. Now that changes, for example, on a typical Friday where folks are back off the road, and then, for example, tomorrow is our quarterly all hands meeting. That's normally done in person. We bring the whole team into the office, and you're back with folks. So yes, a definite impact when you went from being sort of partially virtual to fully virtual. So I guess the good news is that we were ready at one level because we have tools like, for example, Microsoft Teams, we implemented that across the company. We used it a lot before. We use it every single day now as a tool. But on the business side of it, it has been impactful. I mean, certain clients have definitely scaled back on their work needs because everyone is looking, at their business and what's working and what's not working. We have pivoted a bit, and we're a company that's used to working virtually, so now we're helping some other companies do that, leveraging um, AWS workspace, for example, which gives you some options there that you wouldn't have otherwise. To go virtual, helping clients do that, and then even we do a lot of help in the agile space on a normal day, and so now trying to help companies maintain their projects, their technology projects in that agile environment, but doing so remotely, staying productive there. So we're trying to pivot there, but I don't want to sugarcoat it. It is definitely a different day for all of us out there, and we're definitely having to adjust.
Yeah. Well, thank you both. I mean, I know it's hard. Not everyone's used to, working remote, being virtual. And, with that, on to the next question. Like you were saying, Rodney, I imagine both of you were in the middle of projects with your customers. What organizational change management measures have you guys had to take to keep up with these? I mean, I imagine it's hard, like you had said, but is there anything or any advice you can give to other organizations to keep up with the projects and continue that momentum?
Yeah, I could start on that one. The question, I thought we were a company that communicated a lot internally as well as externally, but we've now realized we had to, put that on steroids. And our HR team, I think, has done an incredible job of guiding the whole company and the need to do that. And again, you think you're being a pain by communicating so frequently, but people really are, wanting for information. And so in that sense, I think we've really ramped up those efforts. Here's an example. A lot of companies have had in the past internal blogs. Well, we did too, and the thing, like a lot of blogs sort of it went away for a while. Well, we reinstituted that. We brought it back. And I think that's helping a lot just to give people another outlet. We've always done lunch and learns, at least for internal purposes, sometimes externally bringing clients in, but internally just for education purposes. And again, those were less frequent. Now they're very frequent, and we've had great participation there. More and more people joining, and more people with ideas to do them. I mentioned we have a quarterly all hands. We'll do that 100% virtual tomorrow. That's a bit of an experiment for us. We normally have food and beverage provided, so we're trying to figure out how you get that to everyone's house. But so there are some limits to going virtual. But I guess the message there is, do what you've done before and then some. I think that's what we've learned.
What about you, Skip?
Yeah, I'd echo Rodney's comments. We deal with a lot of OEMs, manufacturers of hardware and software solution sets as an integrator, and they've pivoted to lunch and learns or dine and dashes or those kinds of event-driven type of events to virtual events. We've had virtual happy hours. Everybody has seen them now. People generally are pretty resilient, and I'm really enjoying the wit on all the memes that are coming out, the jokes that are coming out, as well as their innovative way to continue business as much as they can in a new way. So the virtual happy hours have been kind of intriguing, right? You now see families doing them as well, right? So the families, we're cut off from the grandkids, for example, because our daughter-in-law is a nurse. So we haven't seen the grandkids except through video for going on a month now. So again, but sales continue. Business is continuing. I've got chunks of customers that are still in the office, reduced staff, skeleton crews, reduced shifts, but they still have to deliver business to their customers as well. So, you know, and for the manufacturers, they still have to sell their solutions. They still have to hit their numbers. So while COVID is unprecedented, it's nothing like 9/11. It's nothing like 2008. Business still has to be conducted, and that continues to go on with people just being creative on how to get that done.
Yeah. And I love that word creative. That is something I know on Monday, Lori was talking about. You know, obviously you guys, I'm sure, are used to having meetings with your clients, you know, and getting that face-to-face interaction, which is so crucial. I know she was talking about going on walks with them. I mean, do you guys have any unique ways that you're keeping in contact with them other than the lunch and learns, that I think is a great idea? But any other contact and other unique ways to stay engaged with your clients?
Well,
I think, oh,
go
go
ahead,
ahead,
Rodney.
Skip. Well, so, yeah, I do think we've all mentioned the tools that are out there, and I think what's been great is the client's willingness to embrace those tools as well. I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't do a ton of, like, for example, the Zoom tool, I hardly ever used prior to this. Now, I mean, I was on yesterday, I think 6 different Zoom meetings. um, Not all work related, but there was a mixture there of things. But the point is, people are embracing the technology because they want to interact and they want to see you. And at one level, just know, even though, yeah, it's a business relationship in this case, but also just knowing that you're okay, and you want to know that they're okay. And so part of that is the visual connection with it. So I think it's, you know, we're all technologists sitting here, and I think it's great that we've got these tools and now folks are leveraging them. And then, as Skip mentioned too, yeah, you turn right around and go, well, you know, I did that for a business meeting. Why don't I do that for a family meeting? I've even got a school reunion coming up. We're going to do a virtual reunion. Never done one of those, but it's the best option we've got right now because it's the reunion time. But I think people really are. It's just, you know, it's the inherent the human nature to want to interact as personally as possible, and the best we can do is through these tools. I think people are willing to embrace that.
Yeah, I think the bottom line is any business can transact business when it's easy, but you're really going to find out who your vendors are, who your friends are, who your constituents are when it gets hard, right? Anybody can do anything when it's easy, but when it gets hard, and this is hard, right? This is different for everybody at the same time, virtually, making it unprecedented. Then you're really going to find out who you can trust, who's going to be responsive. I'll give you a story. So I had a customer about 3 weeks ago, publicly traded company. Their C-suite lost their minds. I mean, literally lost their minds because their business continuity plan had not been dusted off in a long time. Their DR had not been tested. And so nobody was prepared for a mass exodus of work from home workers. So I literally got a phone call that said, hey, Skip, can you find me 20 laptops because my CEO just told me to go to Best Buy and buy 20 laptops. And I'm not going to do that. So I made a couple of phone calls and I found a location close by that had old, used stuff from the state, and figured out the price, the whole bit, connected them over an email. And they drove the truck up and bought 20 laptops with a cashier's check. I felt like a drug dealer. It was a 20 laptop drug deal, and I never felt more, dirty and exhilarated at the same time. But those kinds of things are examples of what everyone on this call is doing with their respective customers and friends and family. And I think you're going to see more of that. Just a little email that says, hey, how you guys doing? Family safe and sound. Those are going to go a long way as this gets put in the rearview mirror, I think.
Mary, I was going to mention one other thing, just in terms of how we're staying connected. So I think everyone knows Impact Makers business model. We were all profits to charity, community impact focus. So that's been another challenge for us in that, okay, we're a company that's used to or accustomed to doing pro bono projects for these community partners, and again, a lot of it is normally done in person. Can't do that now as much, but at the same time, most of our community partners have a family and health connection in terms of the folks they're serving, which means right now they're absolutely frontline, absolutely providing critical services. And so we've been trying to look at ways to still support them. And one of our partners that hopefully everyone's familiar with, IT for Causes, Tom Anderson's group, which provides on a regular basis technical support, IT support for the nonprofit community. They've set up essentially a virtual help desk / triage center for nonprofits. Actually expanded that scope to some small businesses as well. So we've had folks volunteering for that because most of the work of that work now is able to be done virtually. And what that's given everyone, I think, is an outlet, another way to help people. We're all motivated folks here and used to working hard. There's still obviously client needs to be met. Some of that's limited. Some of the work we can do there is limited. So taking some of that energy and our normal goodwill that we've been putting towards community partners being able to do that has been great. So I'll put a plug in for that charity, but also recognize that there are a number of charities out there. Use the food bank, Feedmore as an example, looking for volunteers. So Hands on Richmond, through the Community Foundation, hit that website. It's a great resource, and again, I think folks really want to help in any way they can, and that's another way to kind of stay connected through this whole thing.
Yeah, it's hard, but here we are. We're still here, guys. So I know we've talked a lot about engaging with your clients. What about your own culture within your organization? So within ePlus, within Impact Makers, before we got on here, I briefly was talking about, Skip and I had discussed a little bit about their virtual happy hours and how you may have learned things about your company and your employees that you may not have known. And Rodney, when I visited Impact Makers, you guys had dogs around. I mean, that's something that, you come into the office and that's just, you get that feeling. It's just, it's so nice. So how are you keeping that? And what are some pain points there?
Well, I'll say on the it is tough when you're used to having such a friendly, welcoming environment. So I'm allowed, at least all my conference calls, dogs are allowed, because I have not figured a way to mute my dog. I've worked on it. You'll probably hear it during the course of this conversation. So dogs are on conference calls. That's just part of it. I think we have to continue that. But it is it is challenging. It is challenging to keep that environment. And I do think part of it, going back to the communication side, it's we've got to run a business. Skip said businesses continue. We all have active clients here, and we've got to keep the lights on and do that. But I do think in the communications, and I really applaud our HR team for this. The first messaging was all about how are you doing, to the individual, to the employees, and asking how they're doing. Then also providing, as best we could, advice on how to stay healthy. I mean, first of all, telling them you don't have to you don't have to come to the office. And then more to the mental health side of it, putting them at ease in terms of how the company's doing, how prepared we are, letting them know we're going to communicate on a regular basis, and then doing so, giving them that regular communication. And then also trying to give them some view towards where we're going with all this. Of course, that's the hardest part, because to know exactly where everything's going to end up. But I do think there's a reassurance there, from the consistency of emails and other announcements, the calls, in keeping the regular meetings, if not having even more regular meetings. So all of that, I think, as best you can, is trying to recreate that environment. End of the day, we're a business, but end of the day, we really care about our employees and want to make sure everyone's okay.
Yeah, that's spot on. I mean, this for every company, whether it's private or public or a government entity, it's about leadership during a difficult time. And so rallying the right resources and rallying and communicating those resources to start with, taking care of your employees first. I've seen HR, especially at ePlus, just step up and connect the dots on how to do virtual doctors and nurses, right, through the use of our, the healthcare plans that we have. So things that people would not have automatically thought about or even leveraged in the benefit package are now being highlighted, explained, walked through by the HR groups. And from a taking care of your customer standpoint, we touched a little bit about it, but every website now leads with what they're doing with COVID-19, right? This is what we're going to do with our people. We're going to keep them healthy first. And then they're thinking through the touch points from the supply chain of delivering goods and services to let everybody know that, hey, we're in this together as well. It's, it was funny. I was talking the other day with somebody, and jokingly somebody said, well, at least there, no offense, Rodney, less political ads, right? Because everybody's united around a common enemy. And if you want to really glue people together that are divisive or divided or in their own worlds or running around separated, then get everybody to go through a common hardship together. And I think I fully am convinced that this is this COVID-19 is a way to do that, both in a global standpoint as well as in a local standpoint. But our culture has changed to really care and really be genuine about what's going on in everybody else's world.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. It's sad that it's obviously the virus is going on, but we are coming together. So yeah, that's a great point. So I know a lot of us are not used to this video and how, as far as etiquette and collaboration. So what are your opinions on, what meetings or when do you have video? When do you not? As far as the background, like what are your opinions on that? Just to give some people, insight that aren't used to working remote.
Yeah, the video thing is interesting. I mean, I think we've all grown up doing conference calls forever, but I feel that I'm in a strong majority in saying, yeah, if you're working remotely, working from home already, and on a conference call, how am I dressed for that? Yeah, probably whatever I was wearing when I got out of bed that morning to do the call. But I will say, again, because of the extended nature of the pandemic and how long we've had to be separated, I think people really do want to see too. The voices are great, but I think actually having the visual to go with that. I'm not saying that every single meeting has to be done that way, but I do think at least a certain number of them that really does help to make that connection. So yeah, so from a how you do it standpoint, you do have to think about, did I actually change out of my pajamas, and are all the dishes from breakfast or lunch or whatever stacked up behind me in the view of the camera? Is my dog going to bark more than once during the call? I mean, those things come into it, but it's I think it does mean something to people to do that.
Yeah, I like the video piece of it. It's hard to read body language on just audio, and it's very easy to get distracted if you're just on audio. So, and look, I do it too, right? If I want to check emails while I'm listening into a sales pitch or training program from Cisco or something, there's a good chance that I'm not going to be on video. I'm going to be just on audio. And I've got 3 screens up, looking at emails on one, and a proposal that's due on another, and trying to listen in on the video and watch the slide deck as it scrolls through. But again, as Rodney said earlier, we're social and we want to engage together. And video is going to do that in a different way than just audio. So but I use both depending on what I need to get done that day. And I think everybody's doing that as well. The background noise, it's funny. Before this happened, everybody that went and worked from home that had to get on a con call would be deathly afraid about a baby crying or a dog barking or mowing going on outside or whatever. And to some degree, as Rodney said, what they were dressed as. I've seen SVPs in t-shirts right now, and I don't think anything of it, right? I mean, it's an internal call, and obviously that's a little different than an external call, but I think our standard of acceptance for what we're doing and engaging in is trumping what's in the background and what background noise there is and what they're wearing. And it's, we're transacting business here. Companies, I tell you, that's the biggest one that I've seen. And I'm sure Rodney and Impact Makers have these companies too. A lot of them were old school and you had to be on site to do your job. That was just what they expected. I want to see the person in their cube, do their job, whatever. COVID-19 has forced everybody to deal with remote workers, whether they like it or not. And so I think that there is there's going to be a transformational realignment of the workforce and how we conduct work after this is all over that will be interesting to see play out for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to echo what Skip just said. I think that is absolutely true, and I think that's one way to, not just speaking for Impact Makers and Skip here, but for probably most of the folks on the call, we've got an opportunity, I think, to lead a number of other companies towards this. Really, what's going to be I think the go for environment, because this has been absolutely devastating pandemic. We're going to see something like this again. I mean, it's just the nature of the world today, and people have been warning about pandemics. We've had actually multiple pandemics. This just happens to be the one that's impacted the most people. But it is causing all businesses now to look at how they do what they do. So I think in that sense we're leading by example, because a lot of these companies, a lot of people represented in this call, were already from an area where they were used to doing things virtually remotely when they had to. Again, we all do as much face-to-face work as we can, but I think we can lead by example here and saying, this is another way to get your business done, and again, the companies really are pivoting to that.
Yeah. One more question before we go into questions from the audience. I do want to I know times are hard right now. People are, very few organizations are hiring. We've seen sales go down. Obviously, we're all here in IT, so that's a great place to be. But what if any advice on how to keep sales up? What about business strategy? Like any advice you can give to people to keep marketing, sales, like anything up right now, or any unique ways that you guys are doing that?
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about the pivots from the manufacturers. The manufacturers are the ones that are leading the efforts, I think, in a lot of cases. They still need their goods, their products to be sold, their solutions to be sold. So they typically have much larger marketing departments and are aggressively trying to figure that piece out. That pivots into how do we realign the solutions that we have to support the customer base and their needs right now. It runs from a very a large insurance company in Virginia where reached out to us, and in a week we had 20,000 plus remote workers up and running. They had no solution at all and had maybe 1,000 people working from home. And now all of a sudden the decision at the C-suite was everybody's working from home. How do we do it? And how fast can we get it done? all from very deliberate point solutions. How fast can we get to the cloud now? What about virtual desktops? All of these are now being, looked at through the lens of working from home. And then you have the pushback from people thinking that all the manufacturers and vendors are chasing ambulances, trying to leverage, COVID-19 for their advantage. And I'm sure there are those out there that are doing it. But again, the relationships that you went into this pandemic with are being played out in a different way. And I don't think that will, that view will be held by many if based on the relationships that you have. But again, it's sales are still going on. I mean, we just finished 3/31 was our end of year, big bang end of year effort. So it'll be interesting to see what our final numbers on our earnings call become. But our forecasts are hitting our budget numbers even today. So from my vantage point, again, we don't service a lot of restaurants, right? And so those are the ones that are getting hit probably the hardest. But everybody else is still transacting business. I still have customers that are going into the office every day. I keep asking them whether they're an essential worker or not, but they think they are because they have a job. So again, I think it's running the gambit of sales and creative ways to continue to do that.
Yeah, Skip's made some great points there. I think a lot of it, from our perspective, is looking at the client. It's a long-term proposition, a long-term relationship, and we're here for them. We're here for them yesterday. We're here for them today. We're here for them tomorrow. In some cases, yes, those clients are in a world of hurt right now. They may not be transacting business as they did before, and that's what they have to do. The hospitality industry, in particular, has been really devastated by this pandemic. It'll come back, and in due time, they will need support. In other cases, there are industries that want to keep going, but need help doing that. And that's the Skip's point in terms of helping with the virtual environment. So I mentioned the early part of the call, cloud-based desktop solutions. So we're an AWS partner. We're really enamored with AWS workspaces. And pushing or promoting that as a tool that these companies can use to support more working virtually. We've got a lot of companies who we've helped to enable become agile from a development standpoint. So, well, they want to keep those projects going. So we're helping them leverage agile in this remote environment. They can still be productive with it, just trying to help them do it. So end of the day, it's meeting the client where they are, and recognizing, in some cases they want to do as much business as usual as possible. So in some cases we're doing absolutely what we did the day before, same kind of work. Again, mostly remotely, but still, the same kind of work. Other cases, it's more crisis management. We can, help with that in some cases. But again, we just got to look at it as a relationship and say, what are the needs there, and recognize that.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. Cool. Well, we are at 12:35. If Rodney and Skip, if either of you want to say anything before we go into questions, if not, I'd love to open it up for questions. And please use your mics, use your videos. We want to make this as interactive as possible.
Yeah, and I'm watching the chat, and Conrad Spicer from Sabra is endorsing the fact that they can't make enough hummus to keep everybody happy. And if you haven't tried it yet, the smoked paprika and caramelized onion, my first bite, I think I saw God as soon as I bit into my first cracker on that. But
that's awesome too. Thank you, Conrad.
And hummus actually is on my Sabra hummus is on my shopping list for today. So I hope they've not run out.
No, well, the governor has considered us an essential business, so we're flat out running those lines as fast as we can.
Excellent.
So, it's interesting to listen to all the other, businesses and vendors and folks and how they're dealing with this. And, obviously from a manufacturing perspective, we had a very different environment for our headquarters in New York versus, our plant. We've been closed at our headquarters since the 12th of March, and everybody's been working from home. Trying to keep the front line coming in, the hourly folks to make hummus has been challenging because they are obviously concerned about the environment, their health, their family. But so far, I think we're doing a pretty good job of keeping the plant open, being transparent, and communicating to our employees, making sure that we know that their best interests is what we have at heart. Periodic deep cleaning of the plant, ongoing cleaning during the day of surfaces. I was in the conference call with Israel last week, and during that conference call, someone came into my office 3 times to clean my desk and my handles on my doors and those types of things. And it was sort of funny watching it in the background on the video because I didn't know they were in there, and people were questioning why that person was roaming around my office. So I would say from an IT perspective, for us, fortunately, the things that we've implemented over the last 3 years for collaboration and video and soft phones and, and basically infrastructure, we're business as usual. And I think our executive team has been extremely pleased that we've not had any missteps, and they've been able to conduct business as usual from marketing to sales to finance and operations. So it is a testimony to, I think, the foresight we had with implementing the tool sets we have available. The biggest challenge we've had is making sure users understand how to use those tools from a remote perspective. If someone uses WebEx on a daily basis, but they may not have ever set a meeting up themselves. So those types of challenges.
Yeah, and along those lines, Conrad, that's a great point. Everybody's using, a lot of people now are using technologies that they're not familiar with. So going back to one of your earlier comments, Mary, what are we doing to increase sales or support our customers or next steps? The security layer for all of that new technology is also something that we've put on our websites and intranets and that kind of thing to help protect not only those users that are unfamiliar with how to secure those technologies, but also how to notify, and as a public company, how to notify our people if they think they're getting caught with phishing exercises or social engineering or fraud, even in many cases. So the security layer that has changed a bit, and that that's come to the forefront as well.
Yeah. A note from Ken in the chat, which I just saw, he said a definite key is to over communicate now. In absence of communication from leaders, hearsay, gossip, and uninformed people's opinions, as well as what one's mind can imagine, will take over. Communicate often with employees, partners, and clients, and I think that's so key.
Yeah, that goes a long way. Just because people will ask questions in their head and answer it with the data that they have.
Yep.
And they get to choose what data they fill their head with. So if they're going to rely on Facebook and their social network like before, they're going to get one answer. But what I've seen recently and what our company has been very stringent on is what data feeds are we going to rely on and communicate with our customers about. Things that come from the CDC are going to be more relevant than what you read on Facebook, right? So the communication frequency is everybody is doing and certainly needs to be done, but the content of that communication needs to come from reliable sources. And I think people are starting to realize that, you know what, my friends might not be the best reliable source when it comes to exercising restraint and social distancing and those kinds of things. That needs to come from a higher group.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And we've tried to, well certainly reiterate the point of frequent communication, but we've also tried to centralize that communication. Basically, all of the key messaging is coming from either our CEO, Louis Broom, or HR Director, Don Leonard. And it's consistent messaging and sort of the one source of truth there. And I think that really is important.
Anybody else have any questions or want to chime in?
Hi, this is Caitlin Atkinson. Say thanks for coming on the call today, guys. My question, there's been a couple of discussions about this just on other meetups as well, but just what are you guys doing to help motivate your teams as well? I understand like in IT, that's, things keep going, but especially if you were like in sales, or what are you seeing manufacturers do to help keep those spirits up? Because it is just such an uncertain time right now. Do you celebrate more small wins? Have you just been trying to laugh more? Like, what have you guys found effective for keeping your teams like not only engaged, but just motivated and excited to, hunker down and work?
So the first experiment that we had, I'll just start off, that we had in the small group that I'm engaged in from the business development side. We ended up having a happy hour, right? Now, truth be known, the boss is in Texas, so he's an hour behind. He set it up for 4 o'clock our time, which means he was drinking at 3. I think that was the ultimate motivation, but it was really interesting and refreshing to everybody was, wearing what they were wearing. It went from, a bottled water to wine to brown liquor to a beer. And it truly was a happy hour. And we didn't really talk business. We talked life, and we talked how everybody was doing. We have a common opening of discussion and conversation with the COVID-19, and just engaging in a I care for you kind of way. We're all in this together kind of way. I've found has motivated people to stay engaged. I mean, we're blessed to have a job. So we need to protect that and continue to drive towards meeting those goals that each one has.
Yeah, virtual happy hours, thumbs up. Probably do that with our all hands tomorrow.
Yeah, I think the other thing is there've been a lot more one-on-ones that I've seen with bosses and their direct reports. Even if it's just hey, thinking about you, hope everything's okay. Let me know. Just those kinds of things have gone a long way, I think. Again, leadership will come to the forefront in a time of crisis, and that's true from the very highest levels all the way down to somebody that's only managing 2 or 3 people. So just telling them, hey, I appreciate you hanging in there, and sharing success stories, across the board has gone a long way to keeping people engaged. It's that over communication kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think, I was gonna say, I think we've talked a couple times about there's some worry about over communicating or over meeting, and I think right now that's hard to do. I do know at least one instance where we set this is one particular group within Impact Makers, and we'd set an additional meeting that did not exist prior to the COVID outbreak for twice a week. We did dial that back to once a week. But I think, again, to Skip's point, the one-on-ones, that's something we're supposed to do all the time, and some people are better about that than others. Right now, everybody's doing it, and I think that has just been key to have folks understand. Yeah, we do care. We care about you personally. We care about how your work is going. At all levels, and it may seem like, gosh, I just talked to this person 5 days ago or whatever, but it's right now, I don't think you can overdo it.
Yeah, and the mental health aspect of this as well, I don't want to dismiss. That feeds back into what our HR team has done within ePlus to be able to extract out the mental health benefits of the healthcare plans that we have, how to engage, I've seen a couple of times where they've sent out, be on the lookout for this from a video or audio standpoint, because we are isolated, right? And some have families, some don't. Some are isolated by themselves, some isolated with just a few people. But being able to pick up on some signs and their discussions, and being there to know the right next step to help them, with this isolation is key, I think.
Mary, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I'm curious, you all talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but how has your approach to the sales call changed? Are you still able to make a sales call? Do you have to reconfigure how you approach it? Is it even appropriate right now to do that? Or are you just checking on people and not really doing a hard sell? What's your approach to sales?
Yeah, I'll say it's been
Go
a
ahead, Ryan.
mixture for us, again, depending on the client. I mean, certain businesses, again, the hospitality industry, that's been almost shut down. So that it's hard to have conversations with that industry right now. Other industries, financial services, for example, or we do a lot of work with the state government right now. They're actually heading in the opposite direction. I mean, if you're doing if anyone's pursuing PPPs or other loans right now, I can tell you the banks are extremely busy. We do a lot of work in the Health and Human Resources Secretary of the State. A lot of very, very busy agencies right now. So you have to kind of judge. It's going to depend on the industry, depend on the client, and then where you have a sense they need that support, you can still have those conversations. Initiating calls right now, that's a harder realm to go into because of this, and I think that's where again folks have to use their judgment. A lot is done by email and conference calls in regular times, but in the day, you really do rely so much on the face-to-face, and that's challenging right now. So we certainly are taking care of our current clients first and foremost right now at all levels, and I think that's given us a lot to do, and again, that just recognize, as I said before, it's a long-term relationship, and we want to be there for them at all levels.
Yeah, I think Nick, cold call prospecting with a new client has probably suffered the most, where you're not going to go out and solicit more business from a cold contact. What I've seen the most that has shifted in sales specifically are all of those projects or tools or solutions that may have been dismissed or prioritized lower because of the COVID-19 has flipped and reprioritized everything. So they're coming at those solutions from different business requirements that were not there before, that might have juggled the priority. Number two, every manufacturer now is giving stuff away for free. So all of the proofs of concept, all of the things that customers didn't want to necessarily get engaged with right now, it's much easier to do that, right? From Cisco to Rubrik to Varonis to, you pick any group out there, you can now download their software for free and run it until September, or run it for 90 days. So a lot of customers now are starting to say, hey, this might be the right time to experiment or do a proof of concept or a bake-off of one tool against another, because there's going to be zero cost other than the effort to spin it up to do that.
Cool. Well, any other questions before we end today's webinar? Thank you both, Rodney and Skip, for being here today and sharing your insight. And if that is all, we will wrap today's episode up.
Mary, I just want to say just real quickly, speaking of engagement and keeping us all going, I really appreciate RVATECH doing this. And Skip and I have been members of RVATECH for more years than we want to admit over the air here. But it is a community, And I think this is a way we've stayed just through the years so well connected. And I really appreciate you guys continuing that through these virtual formats. It's absolutely necessary and much appreciated.
Thank you for that. We're excited, and it's helping us, stay in touch with you guys too. And actually, on that note, we have our Tech on Tap virtual happy hour tonight, starting at 4:45. So join us.